Imagine the night sky of Kabul in October 2001, pitch black, then suddenly ignited by waves of thunder, fire, and light. In a matter of seconds, the horizon became a canvas of destruction. The world was witnessing America's new military doctrine, shock and awe. The operation, that was supposed to bring swift justice for 9/11s, would mark the beginning of a 20-year war in the world's most unforgiving battlefield, Afghanistan, the graveyard of empires. This is a story of how the U.S. unleashed the full power of modern warfare on a land that had already seen centuries of conflict. The mission was called Operation Enduring Freedom, but for the people on the ground, it began as an apocalypse from above. The goal was clear: dismantle the Taliban regime, destroy al-Qaeda strongholds, and eliminate Osama bin Laden. But behind the precision bombs, advanced jets, and televised explosions lay a reality the world didn't see. One of fear, confusion, and unintended consequences. The phrase shock and awe wasn't just a slogan. It was a psychological weapon. The doctrine, crafted by U.S. strategists, was designed to overwhelm the enemy not only with firepower, but with fear. The idea was simple: hit hard, hit fast, and hit so powerfully that resistance collapses before it even begins. In Afghanistan, the world saw this strategy unfold in real time. Stealth bombers and cruise missiles rained down on Taliban positions across Kandahar, Jalalabad, and Kabul. The night sky looked like lightning storms mixed with volcanic eruptions. The Pentagon used state-of-the-art GPS-guided munitions, JDAMs, Joint Direct Attack Munitions, which turned regular bombs into smart ones. The technology was meant to minimize collateral damage, but in practice, the chaos of war made precision almost impossible. Villages suspected of harboring militants were obliterated, and every explosion sent shockwaves far beyond its target. In just days, hundreds of Taliban positions were destroyed, communication lines severed, and morale shattered. The Taliban government seemed to crumble under the weight of America's technological superiority. But Afghanistan has a strange way of humbling empires. The British learned it in the 19th century, the Soviets learned it in the 1980s, and soon the Americans would too. Because shock and awe can destroy buildings and armies, but it can't destroy ideology, culture, or terrain that has swallowed invaders for centuries. The first phase of the war looked like a success. By December 2001, the Taliban had fallen, Kabul was under U.S.-backed control, and Hamid Karzai was installed as the new leader. American media showed images of grateful Afghans cheering in the streets. But beneath that surface victory, something dangerous was growing, a resistance that would adapt, survive, and outlast the occupation. The U.S. believed it had won, but Afghanistan's war was just beginning. The CIA and U.S. Special Forces played crucial roles during those early months. They collaborated with local warlords, bribing tribal leaders to turn against the Taliban. Northern Alliance fighters provided ground intelligence while American air power did the rest. It was warfare built on partnerships, but also on fragile trust. Those alliances, born of convenience, would later fracture and fuel the chaos that kept Afghanistan unstable for decades. The American military machine moved fast, using B-52 bombers, F-15s, and Predator drones to eliminate threats. The psychological effect was undeniable. Taliban fighters abandoned posts, believing the U.S. could strike anywhere, anytime. But with each bombing campaign came civilian casualties, wedding parties mistaken for militant gatherings, homes flattened because of faulty intelligence. The shock and awe that was meant to terrify the enemy also traumatized generations of Afghan civilians. For every target destroyed, new resentment grew. Families who lost loved ones joined insurgent groups. Villages that once supported the U.S.-led coalition turned against it. The precision of technology couldn't predict the emotion of revenge. Slowly, the Taliban began to regroup, not in the open, but in the shadows. The war transformed from a lightning strike into a grinding insurgency. The initial spectacle of shock and awe faded into an exhausting, endless fight, the kind of conflict Afghanistan has hosted for centuries. The very terrain that made the strategy possible, open deserts and mountain ranges, also gave the Taliban the perfect hiding places. The Americans had control of the skies, but the Taliban had control of time. Every bomb America dropped in 2001 sent ripples that lasted for years. Children who grew up amid the explosions would later become fighters. Towns that once welcomed the fall of the Taliban became hotbeds of resistance. The technology that made the invasion look easy became useless in countering guerrilla warfare. The U.S. military could destroy cities, but not ideas. The shock and awe campaign also reshaped global military thinking. Nations around the world watched as America displayed its precision weapons, satellite surveillance, and real-time command systems. It was the first network-centric war, one coordinated through computers, satellites, and live intelligence. The 2001 Afghanistan invasion wasn't just a war. It was a demonstration, a warning to the world of what the U.S. could do. But history proved again, overwhelming force cannot guarantee lasting peace. By the mid-2000s, Afghanistan had become the same trap it was for the British and Soviets, a conflict with no exit. The initial confidence of shock and awe dissolved into frustration. Every airstrike that hit the wrong target strengthened the enemy's narrative. The United States spent billions, lost thousands of soldiers, and yet the Taliban returned, stronger than before. The phrase Afghanistan is the graveyard of empires became more than a cliché. It became prophecy. America's mightiest weapons, stealth bombers, drones, and satellite-guided missiles, could not conquer a land where time, terrain, and tribal loyalty were stronger than any army. By 2021, the U.S. withdrew, ending its longest war. The Taliban returned to power, almost exactly 20 years after being ousted. The same mountains that once echoed with the sounds of American bombs now echoed with the Taliban's victory chants. The shock and awe that was supposed to be the beginning of a new era became the prologue of another empire's defeat. Today, looking back, we see the 2001 bombings not just as military history, but as a symbol, a lesson about the limits of power and the price of control. Technology can win battles, but not hearts. Precision can destroy targets, but not beliefs. Afghanistan remains undefeated, not because of its weapons, but because of its weapons, but because of its will to survive. The shock and awe campaign was meant to scare the enemy into submission. Instead, it scared the world into realizing that even superpowers can bleed. Every flash in the sky over Kabul told a story, not of victory, but of history repeating itself. The United States had the firepower to destroy nations, but not to control them. And now, decades later, that same strategy used in Iraq, Syria, and Libya shows the same pattern. Short-term victories, long-term chaos. The world's most powerful militaries still learned that you can bomb a country into rubble, but not into peace. In the end, shock and awe in Afghanistan was not just a show of might, it was a lesson in humility. The land that buried empires buried another. The campaign began with lightning, ended in ashes, and left a haunting reminder. Power can conquer land, but not the soul of a people. So the next time history remembers the brilliance of those bombings, remember the silence that followed, the quiet cities, the displaced families, the dust that settled over Kabul, carrying with it the echoes of every empire that once thought it could never fall. This is not just a story of war. It's the story of human limits, a story Afghanistan has told time and time again. If you found this deep dive revealing, don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and comment below. Do you think shock and awe really works, or is it just history repeating itself? Because sometimes, the loudest explosions leave behind the quietest lessons.